Good morning, everyone. I'm Jonathan Hensley, the Director of Horticulture here at Fernwood Botanical Garden in beautiful Niles, Michigan. I just wanted to work over a couple of the upcoming highlights that you can expect to see in the gardens if you want to come out and visit us. We've got a lot of really unique things to see over the next couple of weeks. The first thing that I'd probably point to is the native skunk cabbage. Looks a little bit like unfurling lettuce heads, romaine lettuce heads out here in the field. Is just getting going with its foliage cover. It already has bloomed. This is Symplocarpus fetatus. It's the native skunk cabbage. It's very, very unique in that as a carrion flower and a member of the aroid family, it's a very, very large plant family, but is predominantly tropical and subtropical in terms of its distribution. So it's very, very interesting herbaceous plant to see in that as far north in a temperate climate as southwestern Michigan, you can see a very unique native example of this family, the aroid family. Additionally, we'll look at, we're here in the lower Primrose glade at the foot really of what's to become our new stumpery garden, and we're getting ready to traverse over the stream bridge where on either side you will see plantings, historical plantings here of primrose, the Primula japonica that we're very well known for as it comes into bloom, generally dependent upon the season, late April to early May. So there are a number of different examples, and these spread somewhat vigorously through here. As we can see off to the right-hand side here, we have a yellow example that's just coming into bloom. It's a very, very pretty candelabra style bloom that's just starting to develop and unfold all the unique individual florets as a part of that inflorescence. This glade will fill out with flowers that are pink and purple, mauve, blush, all the way down to creams and yellows. So it's very, very pretty once it flushes out entirely. From here, I think we're just going to continue down the garden path, and we'll look at some of the minor bulbs that are starting to bloom, and then we'll get into some of the ephemeral wildflowers that we're very well known for. So just come on, follow me. We'll take a look. We can see down here at the ground level, these are geophytes, which would be bulbs. These are the Siberian squills, Scilla siberica. We have a significant population of these on the property, and you can kind of get a sense from its distribution here that the growth habit is one of a naturalizer, right? So from the original planting, provided that they're growing well and they're happy and they're sighting, you can somewhat regularly expect them to jump around, kind of freeform and naturalize into a space. They'll also do this in a traditional lawn environment as well, which is how they're used in a lot of gardens to kind of give a pop of color for the spring. Now, our native bluebell, this is Mertensia. It is just in foliage right now. It's not yet in bloom. We can get an example of it here off to the right-hand side. You can start to see some of the blooms developing. Now, I have spoken with a number of my colleagues in the industry, Philadelphia, New York City, indicating that they're already in full bloom. When this plant is in full bloom, you can anticipate it's probably about 14, 16 inches high, and the blooms as they develop are a shade of pink and blue, a really nice kind of hue contrast as they mature. You still can't really see them. I wish you could kind of see. It's really quite interesting when these guys develop. They start out as, you can kind of see the bud has like a pinkish cast to it. So it starts out almost pink, and then as the tubular flowers develop, it's a blue. But these were introduced by Kay Boydston with the assistance of some of our longtime garden members and friends here. So kind of an interesting backstory about about this little group of plantings here. Another very interesting ephemeral that you can see developing here, once again just in foliage at this point, hasn't yet started to bloom. You can see the inflorescence there stacked over the top of the tripart foliage. This is a trillium, and this is the white one, grandiflorum, that's getting ready to develop. We also have rubrum here on the property, which is a red, a solid kind of scarlet red example of the trillium. But these are commonly known as wake robins, a very, very common kind of indicator for early spring in temperate climates. Another bulb that I might point out, which is a really nice example from the early spring garden. And there are many different color varieties of these, but this would be an example of a muscari. This is Armeniacum, and inside the species Armeniacum we have many different cultivars, from white to this bluebell style to pink. It's a small geophyte, a minor bulb as well. These will ultimately develop into large colonies and groves when they're happy. But again, another great example that interplays very, very well, can do well in a shade or a sun exposure, and is a reliable, signature for the early spring with its early flowering. We'll have to get in close here so we can take a close look at this guy. So here we have a very, very pretty tuberous ephemeral. This is Thalictrum thalictroides. In some circles, reasonably common, I would call it, another ephemeral, but not as common, I would say, as perhaps the Virginia bluebell, the trillium. This is, as you can see, a fairly diminutive plant. I would call these at maturity maybe up to 10 inches. They're fairly small, they're fairly dainty. This guy is just getting going, and so we can see here at the base more foliage fronds developing off of that small growing crown. But ultimately, as they build out, it'll form a very nice clump in foliage with these dainty white flowers on it. But that is a ephemeral thalictrum, really, really interesting plant for the woodland garden. You can see right here we've got a really pretty daffodil that's in bloom. The daffodil group, Narcissus as a genus, is really quite interesting in the world of bulbs. I mean, it's, to a degree, I guess I would liken it to the tulip genus, Tulipa, in that there are many, many different divisions of both tulip and daffodil that are oftentimes characterized by any number of features of the flower, from the corolla shape, the colors, the ultimate sizes. In the case of tulip, for instance, many of the divisions are separated based upon their maturing timeline. So you have single earlies, you have double earlies, you have single lates, etc. And that late or early is oftentimes inside these bulb groups speaking to when it is that you can expect them to be in bloom through the season, through the spring season. So kind of a neat group of plants to study if you get super into daffodils or tulips. So here we are next to the rock bed by the Dovecote outside the visitor center. A very unique collection of plants here that we'd invite you to come take a look at. These are various hybrid examples of the Lenten rose. These come from a group called Hellebores orientalis. These are not native, but they're from Asia. But these are beautiful accents in the spring garden. You can see that they have a very unique flowering style in that the flowers themselves tend to nod over. As a result, if you're going to grow this plant We always recommend that you do your grooming very early spring before they start to develop, so that you can get kind of a full reveal of the floral display. These are in peak bloom right now, and considering our ongoing weather, I would anticipate them continuing for the next probably 2 weeks before a lot of the blooms start to kind of lose color and paper off and go towards a little bit more dried flower type aesthetic. Also very, very pretty. Once they get done with their bloom sequence, you'll see down here at the base, they're going to develop their feeding leaves, their basal leaves that are very big, beautiful, kind of deep glossy green palmate leaves that start to develop after the flowering sequence is done. If you should so happen to come visit us and enjoy this bed, over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a couple of other very unique highlights in this space. We can point to this gentleman right out here. I should say it's probably a lady, actually. But this is another bulb, and this is from the genus Fritillaria. So we have a number of fritillarias here, from very large, statuesque, 2.5, 3 foot tall fritillarias, all the way down to the species Meleagris, which is a small snakeheads fritillary that we grow in clusters, again in kind of a woodland understory environment. But these will be very, very beautiful over the top of the Hellebore grove inside probably the next 2 to 3 weeks. Come out and view them in that window, and you'll get a great combination play between the fritillarias and the Hellebores here.